Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm working in my art journal, so get comfy and let's get crafty. This is the October 2023 Mission Inspiration Facebook group prompt. There are 8 steps and 5 words for inspiration, and I'm going to get them all in. Come check out how. So I have my prompt card here, and I also have a piece of mixed media paper. This piece of paper is about 5.5 by 8.5, and the first step says to add color with your fingers. But before I do that, I'm going to add a layer of clear gesso. If I do not add gesso to the page, then it will soak up all the paint and take a lot, and I don't want to do that. So I'm adding some clear gesso, and then the paint will just sit on the top of the page and dry that way. I am not being super precious about how it's covered. I did heat set it, and now I'm going to go ahead and add that paint. And the colors I have selected are these 2 shades of green, and the darker green is actually that mica paint that I use often, and it has some gold mica in it, and gold is one of the words for inspiration. So with my fingers, this is not my favorite method of applying paint, but for this page, for the look I was going for, it absolutely works. And even if that was not the instruction, it is probably what I would have done. I'm going for kind of a very dry, not edge to edge, full color page of green paint. This is an olive green distress paint. I don't know what color it is. It was just green. I'm going to go ahead and heat set that before I add the other color of green on top of it. Because acrylic paints will mix if they're wet, I wanted to make sure it was dry. This one, I am adding just a few finger swipes here and there to add some differences in color and texture and to add that gold mica. All right, so here is my first step, adding color with your fingers. The next is to add a quote like a ransom note. So I've got the warmth going on. I've got the gold going on. Instead of using magazines today, I'm going to pull out my drawer full of alpha stickers. And I am going to make my quote with alpha stickers. And my quote says, "The thankful receiver bears a plentiful harvest." Now, I'm putting it straight onto my art journal page. I think that probably 2 things. I should have used a shorter quote, and I probably should have put it onto a piece of paper to pull it up off the back. But it is what it is, and it's done. And what's done is done, right? I am going to cover this with a layer of clear gesso to kind of act as an adhesive, because these stickers have been in my stash forever, and to take down any shine off of those stickers, because I don't want it to be shiny. And once I get that on there, and it did take a minute because a couple of those not sticky letters were moving around with my brush. So I have my ransom note. I'm going to use 2 stencils, and for these 2 stencils, I'm going to use this. It's Lawn Fawn gold. What do they call it? Stencil paste. And it is a shiny, kind of a yellowish gold. I'm going to use that repeat word in our words for inspiration, and repeat each stencil 3 times. So I've got some honeycomb, some hexagon, like honey, beehive, you know, that kind of thing. Chicken wire, I think, is actually what the stencil's called, and some arrows. But yeah, that was a little extra. The next step is to add a die cut or 2, and I will admit I forgot this, but I happen to have this lovely fern branch laying on my desk, so I am going to cut it in half. And it is fidgety, and at first I tried using the clear gesso, then I tried using liquid medium, and because it's cardstock, it just was not. So I put some Tombow Mono glue on the back of it, and I'm using my tweezers to push that down. It blends in, but that's okay. The next step is to blow paint with a straw. So I pulled out my Distress stains and my blowing tool. I'm not going to try and blow through a straw because, well, I don't want to. Yeah, I just don't want to blow through a straw when I have this handy dandy tool in my stash. So I am spilling Distress stain all over my page, but it's okay. It did not harm the page at all. And this little blowing tool that it's marketed for alcohol inks and gel plates and stuff. It is wonderful. I love it. Okay, I'm putting more of this stain. It is vintage photo, I think, but in concentration, it is really quite a dark brown. I added some to that die cut. I have a piece of dog hair on my page because we have a dog. Okay, next step is to add shine or sparkles. So also from my stash that is a gazillion years old, I have this Lindsay Stamp Gang iridescent champagne colored spray shimmer. You will not be able to see it. In fact, in real life, I don't hardly see it anymore. I think it is time to just pitch that one in the bin, in the trash, because it didn't do anything for me. I went ahead and added another layer of clear gesso over that Distress stain, just to keep it from moving around, because the next step is to glue napkin fragments, and that is going to require some liquid adhesive or that clear gesso. So I pulled from my napkin stash this, these are cone flowers, yellow cone flowers, and this is why my background was green paint, because I'm doing yellow flowers. So I am just using a wet paintbrush to water cut this napkin, and once I get that one section pulled apart, I will go ahead and separate the plies. This is a 2-ply napkin, and it did find me a minute to get a corner. I had to end up tearing a corner so I could pull that off, but there we go. We've got the plies separated. And then I'm going to water cut around the darker of these yellow cone flowers to add to my art journal page. It does say a napkin fragment, and while technically these are not torn pieces of napkin, or multiple pieces of napkin, fragments, it is a fragment of a napkin. All right, I am going to go ahead and put this down the bottom of my art journal page. It was never my intention that this napkin covered the entirety of the page, but I need to make sure I don't cover up my quote. I am using a liquid medium. This is a matte medium. I'm going to put a little bit on my page. I'm going to put my napkin on top of it, and then I will use the rest of the medium in my brush and then go over it with a little bit more on top. Because the napkin is porous, that medium does go through it and it works really well. The napkin parts, the white background part of this napkin, it almost becomes translucent, even more translucent, like it kind of disappears into the background of the page. The last step is to add doodles or scribbles. There we go, English. I pulled out a white gel pen, and I am going to kind of emphasize my quote. I feel like, especially because I spilled that stain on my page, that it kind of got lost a little bit, especially this A over here and the little yellow L up there. And then for the rest of them, I just kind of drew white lines around and under the words. I added some highlights to that die cut leaf. And this is just kind of to emphasize my quote. So, nothing fancy. I didn't do any doodles, or I just added scribbles that kind of worked for me. I made it work. I Tim Gunned it. I'm going to date it October 23, and then in the opposite corner, I am going to sign my name. I do have to repunch that bottom corner, but the words for inspiration were imperfect. It definitely is. Harvest. It's kind of got the harvest colors there. I repeated the stenciling. It has gold, and it's got the warm tones to it. I did get all 8 steps. I added color. I added a ransom note. I used stencils, a die cut, ink with a straw, shine and sparkles, glued napkins, and doodles or scribbles. So in this particular art journal page, I did manage to get all 8 steps and all 5 words. at least by the stretch of your imagination, considering that my Sparkle and Shine doesn't sparkle and shine as much, but that gold stencil paste is sparkly and shiny, so I still have it. And you know, the words for inspiration are open to interpretation, I suppose. I am going to go ahead and put some glue on the back of my prompt card and glue it to the back of my art journal page so that I will remember why I made this page the way I made this page. It is definitely a little messier than my norm, but that's okay. I think it turned out great. So tell me down below in the comments, are you a clean crafter or a messy creator? I want to hear all about it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I've added a couple of other videos here for you to watch. I've also included a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Leave me that comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and have a really fabulous day.